So we're on to day 9 of 0 to 100k revenue per month, and I just want to say hi. I don't really have a specific idea of what I want to talk about today. You know what? I keep lying to myself when I start these. I do. I guess I do. One, I think there's a comment that I'm going to double check. Yes, there is a comment. I can see it on my screen. I just can't see it because I need my glasses. After that comment, we will look into what will I look into? I guess discussing anything that comes off that and also what I'm looking forward to with this week ahead. First of all, let me crack open the glasses. I feel like such an old man. All right, sweet. So we've got a comment from Afro Beauty X. Would love to hear about your journey on employing people, like when you felt like you had to start outsourcing and the good and bad that comes with building up staff. Another good video. Much love. Thank you. I should have responded to that earlier, but I appreciate that. Let me double check what it says. Okay, my journey employing people. Oof. I think it starts before Love Circular. So I don't know if you want to be specific to Love Circular or just hiring people in general. But I'll go to my earliest memory of hiring people for something that actually generated revenue. It was the first time I attempted building a business, a legal business that's, service based and legitimate. Not that I've had illegitimate businesses, but you get the gist. Like, I took it seriously. I thought, this is my shot at entrepreneurship. So yeah, I was about 19, I believe it was. Yeah, 19. And I set up a business or an agency called Chefsco. I set it up with a really close friend of mine, and we also brought in some of our friends, and we built a design agency, or like a design and web development agency. With that company, I think the total revenue we grossed probably maybe like 30 grand. Sorry about that noise. About 30 grand in maybe a year and a half, if that. Like, probably less if I'm honest. Um, and that's like maybe 20,000 GBP. I don't know what that is in USD. Maybe like 25,000 USD. But it wasn't a significant amount for a company where I was doing it pretty much full time around my full time job when I was working at Apple. And Isaac, who was also the partner in that, was doing it full time after leaving university. What ended up happening is in that business, I believe there was things that we wanted to offer, like graphic design, and I wasn't a graphic designer, for instance. So we wanted to offer stuff like graphic design, and we started bringing in some of our friends to work part time with us. And in that scenario, like, we did get some leads and we did close some clients and deliver some exceptional work, might I add, for the time, of course, and our experience level. But in that scenario, I feel like it was difficult because you don't know what you don't know, and everyone that's working with you works with you because they like you as a friend. And in some scenarios, I think it's difficult to really get a grasp, especially at the time. I weren't full time, and I weren't full time, so I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that I needed people to do certain things, and in that business, I was, I guess, the CEO or whatever you want to call it, or managing director. But yeah, that was how it worked out. That being said, I know that was a really shit example, but it was the first scenario. And in some scenarios, there are people who want to get into entrepreneurship and they might have a friend of theirs who shares a similar belief or a similar vision or an idea around setting up a company. And I think it's a really good way to start and get, not start in the deep end, because entrepreneurship solo is the deep end. One of the beautiful parts about that was I had someone who was working alongside, I guess, a co-founder in that sense. So that was nice. In terms of when we needed to hire people, or we didn't, but we wanted to hire people to take on new work. Looking back, I think that wouldn't have been the way that I would have went about it. I think we should have been more effective on delivering on what we're capable of and advertising that to leads, not leads, but prospects. But that's what I change. What else? The good from that was it felt like, oh, it was beautiful. We were all like young 20s, young 20s, early 20s, sorry, and it was our first taste of making money outside of a full-time job or like traditional employer, boss, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, that was all right. Then when I started Circular, that wasn't I can't call them, they weren't employees, so I will skip that story. But it comes to Love Circular, right? So what actually happened with Love Circular was we when did we first hire? So the first person we hired, okay, I have to give some context. So it first started out with myself and Isaac. Well, Love Circular started out with myself and Isaac again, but there was a scenario where the company started going down a route where it was less product related and less development heavy. So in terms of what Isaac's really good at, he just wasn't of as much value to the business. So he realized, okay, I might have to pivot out of this because it's getting like service based, and he's a software guy. So we then hired someone called Kieran just before Isaac left, and it was his role to predominantly deliver sales and sales slash recruitment slash some career sort of service and that side of the business. The reason why we brought him in was because I knew him from school. I was a school friend of his, and yeah, like the aim was I already knew like he had a bit of a hustle and mentality from when we used to be in school, so it just made sense to bring him in, and I thought it was a great opportunity to bring someone in that I'm familiar with, and plus that he was already experienced in the world of recruitment. That being said, at the time, like when I set the business up, I didn't really know much about what I was doing, to be fair, in the sense of what service delivery would look like and how that would be. But I thought if there's anyone who can improve the service immediately, I can teach them how to design, but who can teach them some of the career stuff and how to get more jobs. So what happened was maybe my month two, cohort three, that's when we pulled him in as a part-time person, and he did that alongside his part-time job. And what happened was in our first month of revenue, I think we did like 4 grand. Then the next month we did 5.5 grand, and then after that we did like 8 grand. So at that point there was enough money to like start bringing people in, and I took a minimal salary. I probably took like maybe 1.5 grand each month out of those months that we started making some revenue. So we had a surplus of profit, and that allowed us to say, okay, we can pay someone part time, but we're going to need some. I'm going to need someone to be full time if we're going to make this a worthwhile service. So what we did was we pulled him in full time, and he happened to left his job as a recruiter full time to come get involved in the circular as someone in like the sales and career side of things. Eventually going up the ladder to what's the word, sales director. So that was the first person, and sales were coming in, things were fine, that was all good. The next person we hired, I believe we started hiring like part-time helps. Again, my network allowed me to bring in some people part-time, so I think it was Keenum that I pulled in part-time to help with some graphic design or some marketing content. And that was easier because it wasn't, I knew that that wouldn't have had to be a full-time role, and I believe Keenan was already working with a company, so it was kind of easier. Uh, Again, it was just like ad hoc work, so it wasn't too bad. My thoughts in that scenario was I knew that we wouldn't need him full time because I'm a designer, and at the time, like it wasn't a priority to have more design work. It was just a priority to get certain things done so I can free my time up, and I couldn't make enough work for him, so it wouldn't have been a full-time role. That's I'm going in circles, but you get what I mean. So that's what happened there, and it made sense to not go further. But after that, one of the interesting parts of the running the business from a day-to-day standpoint was it started getting very busy and difficult for me to manage operational stuff and like student experience. So straight away at cohort two, I started hiring part-time instructors, mainly because I knew that I needed to balance out the service delivery and oversee operations. So cohort two, cohort three, I believe cohort three, we definitely had some instructors. Oh shit, I'm forgetting Molly and forgetting Luke. Oh man, yeah. So I'm forgetting some people early who were like part-timers, but they didn't really get paid much. They were just here before the idea started paying revenue. And when it did pay revenue, it just didn't work out for them. Sorry if I'm ranting or rambling on. I'm trying to recall events from like 3 years ago, and it's not the clearest. But yeah, so as I mentioned, I started hiring part-time instructors. There's a criteria that we have for our coaches or our instructors, and the reason why I started doing that was because I knew that it wouldn't have been helpful for me to be full-time doing all of the other stuff and trying to instruct and maintain all of that. At somewhere the I would have dropped the ball, and I know what I'm like in terms of consistency with a lot of like behaviors and actions. I'm a bit of a sporadic person, or like a bit of a butterfly, like neurodivergence or ADHD kicks in at that point. So I started putting certain people in places that could reduce some of the weight off my back and ensure that we can still deliver excellent quality, but I can focus in on the areas that need me the most. So that worked out really well. Now, the first full, like I'd mentioned Kieran, but I don't really consider Kieran as the first full time employee because he kind of came in as things were going up and he knew of everything beforehand. The first full time employee we had was Anisha, and I think we hired Anisha maybe like 10 months into the company launching and making revenue. Yeah, about 10 months into the company making revenue and stuff. And Anisha's background was she previously worked in an agency and she had some operational experience there, as well as like some project manager experience. And that her role when she came to Love Circular was operation executive, and then it went into ops manager. The main reason why we bought Anisha in was, like I mentioned, I'm a sporadic person, and as a founder, I believe when it comes to building a team and building who you want around you, you've got to build people that complement your skill set. You don't want to build more of the same thing that you do. You want people to fill in your blanks, and eventually you want to essentially manage your way out of it or hire someone to get you out of the previous job that you were doing. So I picked my weak spots, ops and anything like customer support based, and Anisha took care of that. Like, she literally always had the blind spots covered. So it made a lot of my life easier. When we hired Anisha, I think revenue wise I think at that point we were maybe pulling in about 15k a month, 16k a month, and we were spending out of that 16, 15, we were probably spending about, I'm gonna say about 8 or 9. Yeah, 8 or 9 grand of that. So like we were around 50% profit margins or greater. So it made sense. And the scariest bit about hiring Anisha when we did it was I was like, shit, this is a real person that I don't necessarily have a private relationship with. And if it goes left, this could go really wrong. I can mess this up so badly because they're taking a risk leaving where they're currently at to be on our team. But I knew that at the time, like the business really needed support. Oh yeah, it's like accounting and stuff like that, and bookkeeping. I really needed some support on that front. So yeah, I jumped full, head first and made sure we had someone to take care of that. Anisha picked things up really well, and I think like maybe like 2 months into Anisha's time with us, I got burnt out. So when I got burnt out, it was like, okay, cool, we're gonna need some more help. And then after that, we started building the team up. From there, we started hiring in marketing. At that point, we've already tried marketing. That's what I was doing. I was doing marketing predominantly, but we already tried like hiring part timers in marketing, and it just wasn't working out. So we started going full time, and we did it through an internship, and then that internship turned into a paid opportunity because the company was still generating revenue. I think revenue by the time we started hiring our third person, I'm going to say third person by myself, so no, fourth person in total. At that point revenue I believe was about 22 to 24k. It was getting like, it was comfortable hitting 20, just early 20s on a monthly basis. So yeah, that's what we did. We hired that person, and the person was Winnie. So we hired Winnie mainly because we really needed some support on that front, and it was difficult for me to maintain everything without like pushing myself over the edge quite a lot. And yeah, that's what we did in terms of hiring. Do I have any good advice, or do I have anything that comes with building a team? Uh, Probably, yeah. I'm trying to think of it on the spot now. Put it this way, I've made a lot of mistakes in terms of learning and hiring in this role, mainly because I was like 24, 25, and this was like my first time being a full-time manager. I did some management related stuff, but I was never the person who the penny, the buck stops at, and the person with all control. I was always underneath an infrastructure, which is completely different from when you're on your own. So yeah, like I learned everything out on my own, and with some of the support from the people that I mentioned in previous videos that were mentoring me. But yeah, in terms of good advice, I would recommend first hiring people that you need to alleviate immediate pressures in the business. Don't hire because it looks nice or you want to grow revenue. Hire because you need to get to the point where you can't know any longer. Well, you can't deliver a certain thing any longer without burning yourself out or putting yourself at a position where the quality of your service or product uh, diminishes because you're spread thin. At that point, hire the person that you need to take care of that. Yes, revenue may drop 1 or 2 months, or it could take a little longer while they get up and running. But at the same time, the mental space that you're going to have and how much bandwidth you will be able to approach your days with, it's significantly better than like being spread thin. One of the big problems that I believe I had, and many of the first-time entrepreneurs have when they're like first time in something like this anyway, it's the fact that you don't know when to let go. I was thankful that I kind of saw enough and I heard enough from my mentors early, so I knew when to let go, and I wasn't too precious about letting go of responsibility or like giving up some control. But sometimes it's a hindrance for many entrepreneurs letting go. And again, like if you feel like you're juggling too much and your business is it's running you into the ground, you should probably hire. If you don't have the revenue at that point to hire, or you're not profiting enough, that's a fundamental problem where I'd say take a step back and look at what you're delivering and what your business model is, because in theory you should be profiting. And if you're not profiting and you're getting customers, and if you're getting customers and you're not profiting enough, and you can't hire, you're in a shit position. It means that you either need to sell more or essentially raise your prices to the point where you can afford to make enough profit and hire. That's a whole different topic though, and I'm happy to talk about it at some point. But yeah, I'm assuming you've got some capital saved up and you can hire. Yeah, that's how you'd go about it. I'd also say, if possible, find people that share a similar, like, where like as much as close as possible. Sorry, find people that share a similar vision for what you believe in as a person. Your first hires, or yeah, the first hires of the company are going to be the people that are closest to your personality type and your worldviews. So you want to make sure they align with you as a person and your beliefs. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time around these people, and if they do your nut in or you do your head in, like, you're just going to be so sick of working with them, and it can get very frustrating. And it's not because they're not good at their job, it's just because you have to manage someone who maybe has opposing views or opposing beliefs, and that's just not something you want to hear. So I'd recommend that side of things. And yeah, I'd recommend finding people that are kind of like you and or share similar interest, and it makes it easier. Your first hires are going to be your friends or people that can be your friends in most scenarios. simply because they're joining the company based on their belief in you and their belief in where you're taking the company. I believe once that number gets past, I'd say once it gets past 8 people, that's when people start hiring. That's when the company people will be joining the company based on where they believe the company is going. Yes, they'll want to join you possibly, but the general direction of where the company might be going is a lot easier to see than the founder. But yeah, I believe even when you're hiring your first like staff, I've never hired like past 10 people, so 10 people all at once. So I can't speak for it. But a big thing that I believe in is it's hiring yourself, doing a lot of the dirty work, especially early on yourself, and try not to offload this stuff. Always be involved at least in the first and last stages of your interviews, and really, really grill and ask important questions about things that align with your beliefs and where you believe the company is going to go, and it should make it easier. In terms of what not to do, I've made this mistake so many times. I've lost a lot of money doing this. I've lost a good amount of money. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah, it's multiple 5 figures, like high 5 figures, potentially 6 figures doing this, right? It's hiring based on the fact you want to grow the company, and doing that when you're below 10 full-time members of staff. The big problem is with that is you are essentially giving money and lighting it on fire if it doesn't work or it takes long to work out. And a big example of this for us is we did it in marketing, we did it in ops at one point, we did it in a few areas of the company, and it's to some extent it's through no fault of the staff members that joined. It's not that necessarily their fault. They are no one's blameless, but yeah, a big part of that from my end was I was hiring for a roadmap as opposed to hiring based on demand for said role. And the reason why I was hiring for a roadmap was because I thought we were going to go raise investment. I thought we were going to have to run this company like a software company, which we started building software for, of course. So I was already running under the guy, running it like I was a Silicon Valley company or someone that's raised a good, healthy amount of capital. Oh, did that bite me in the ass? It fucking bit me in the ass because yeah, I just jumped the gun again. It's one of those mistakes that is, unless you speak to someone. The thing is, I was speaking to my mentors about this, and it made sense. It does make sense at the time, but one of the things that I guess helped was we always had momentum, so it was nice until it wasn't. And when it wasn't, and we realized we were hiring people because we wanted them to drive revenue as opposed to it was the revenue was so high, the demand was increasing, and we needed other people to support. And then at that point, we can start implementing other people that help the people that were already driving the revenue. Oh yeah, it just didn't go that way. I was hiring because I wanted to do cool projects and I wanted certain types of people. And the result of this is we had a company that was operational heavy and not sales and marketing heavy. I believe when you're first starting out your company, you want it to be more sales and marketing heavy, simply because the hardest bit is generating enough momentum and generating enough revenue over and over and over again that will allow the company to essentially get to a point where the trajectory of where revenue is going is it's going upwards and it's not spiky. When it's spiky, that's probably because there's not consistent patterns or the market changes. It depends on your model, of course, but in our model, like that's what it was. Market change, it plummeted, but it was somewhat spiky because it was somewhat seasonal at times. But a big part of it was essentially we should have hired people that were customer support related and sales and marketing, doing the things that we knew worked well and doing them so much we couldn't do them anymore. And for instance, in my position, I should have done more of this sort of stuff where I'm doing content, and I probably should have got someone to edit those videos more, and we could triple how many videos I put out. My traffic could go up. All of these things, like I now have information and I now know this stuff in hindsight, but at the time, yeah, it just wasn't the case. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend. Well, the bad that came from it. Ooh, I've alluded to it before. Reference check as much as you can, and yeah, reference check as much as you can, and also look into who the referees are. Simply because you can get got. I've mentioned we had a very sinister member of staff at one point, and honestly they looked like they were the part on the surface. And it wasn't until certain things didn't necessarily go their way or certain things was handled. I don't know. There were just small things. And after that, like small matters that were never a problem for the wider company, when we were maybe like five, six people, they became problems. And we were still so small to have like bureaucracy problems, but they came up. And I think, again, if I did a better check of references, I think we could have sussed this person out a bit better. And maybe we should have, like, for instance, you could have asked people that or go on LinkedIn and find people that are in connection with that person and ask them, find out people you trust, of course, and ask them, because that could have dodged us a massive bullet. And I think we suffered a lot, man, financially, from a company, like a staff side of it. It was a bit difficult, and even service side of it was a bit difficult, to the point where I got really awkward Glassdoor review, and I know who it's from, because I was like, that's bullshit. But you know what, fair enough. There are three sides to every story. There's my story side, there's that person's side, and there is the truth, which is, I don't know. Hopefully, I'm being as objective as I can, but yeah, I know that that's not always the case, as we all have our own subconscious biases that try and protect us. But yeah, we've hired someone, and referencing would have probably helped us dodge that bullet, because there were massive damages. It stressed me out quite a bit, man, and the fallout of having a bust up within the team, or like a really awkward scenario in the team where other people feel like they can't trust yourself as a leader or the company, it puts you in a very, very awful place, mentally, and it can put you in a weird place if you're not equipped to deal with it. If you're not equipped to deal with it efficiently, or you know how to, of course, that is the same thing. But yeah, I've learned how to do it, and one of the big things is you've got to be clear with communication and very direct and resolution focused. Give people options and allow them to pick, but make it clear where the company is going, and triple down on where the company is going and why something like that had to happen, or whatever it was had to happen for the company to get to where it's going to be. Again, difficult to advise, but it's the reality of things. That can happen to anybody. What else? What bad came of it? Ooh. I think one of the bad, I wouldn't call it a bad thing, but again, inexperience caused this. Certainly my inexperience. Remember I said that we were an operational heavy team? Ooh, well, as you can imagine, there are usually two, I'd say three core areas of a company: the people that bring in the money, the people that keep everything going, and the people that deliver the service or the product, typically. Now, we had the people that keep things running down really well. That was a good team. We had a really good team on that side of things. The people that brought in the money, we had good. I think we got lucky at a lot of the time, and we were saved based on just having a good brand and good content. But we should have been better. But it was still good enough that two functions worked really well, and the people that delivered the service, stellar again. Really, really good team. Now, in terms of the bad that I was trying to describe, where am I trying to go with this? Sorry if I sound a bit quiet. Oh, I can't remember. Shit. Slipped my mind. Well, I guess it's not that important, but that, yeah, I really don't know what the point was. I'm gonna hate the fact that I forgot that because I'm gonna remember it as soon as I finish this video. But yeah, we certainly were in a position where we've hired terrible people that we should reference check. We've hired people hoping that they would generate revenue when we should have hired people that were needed for current things that were in the company, not new projects that were hopefully going to generate revenue. What else is there? There is hire people that you know as much as like people that you know and trust. Hire for who you believe the company needs from a personality standpoint, vision, and people culture. I don't really want to talk about buzzwords and all that other stuff, but like from you are the culture when you're the founder or trio, duo, whatever. You are the culture. Hire people like you and build it around that. It's much easier to work with people that are similar to yourself than it is to work with someone who has nothing common, but you're just exchanging money. It's just not going to work in the long run, or it's not likely to. What else is there? I've given you some good ideas in terms of how to hire, how to look for people. Oh yeah, LinkedIn's a really good method. I use Twitter. We hired quite a few people based off tweets, but that's where a lot of our traffic and a lot of our content went anyway. So yeah, that was a big thing. We used LinkedIn. It was all right. We used other platforms to hire. Shit. Yeah. Oh, I remember the point now. All right. So imagine I was trying to say we had three functions: sales, marketing, and operations. Sales, marketing, product, and operation. Now, one of the problems that I actually had was I believe I was painfully generous at the expense of the company's productivity. The way how this came about was we were already an ops heavy team, so we weren't we if anything we should have put more resource in sales and marketing, so we were never out of we were always in demand and we always had more than what we could supply, more demand than what we could supply, so that would have been great. But I, being the person I am, I was saying I wanted to introduce certain things. So one of the things was I introduced a 4 day work week. I actually don't think 4 day work weeks are terrible. I think 4 day work weeks work for certain areas of the business, but I didn't realize that, especially like with what we were doing. What I should have done is we should have had more people in sales and marketing, and they have 5 days full time. Maybe we give them an extra day off a month, or whatever, but find a way how to do it. But yeah, they shouldn't have been on the 4 day work week, because what ended up happening is on Friday, a lot of stuff got missed, and I think from a work culture standpoint, it got a bit laxed, and sometimes it's my job to rein it in and also keep an eye on that, and I just don't think I did a good enough job of, to be fair. So I dropped the ball on that, and when you've got a combination of, oh yeah, we also gave 40 days holiday, so you could ask me how often are people working. I think people were really productive when they worked, but yeah, at times I guess it was. I still don't think it's too generous. I think it's too generous when you're starting out. When you're a company that's very established and whatnot, like it makes sense to have amazing perks like this. But when you're in the trenches and you still need to build out certain systems, especially revenue systems, I think you don't want to make the mistake of trying to give really competitive packages, because we paid very well. We paid very well. We gave very generous packages, and it got to a point where, yeah, it's like it kind of attracts the wrong people, or attracts people who might have the wrong intentions. Thankfully, the core people that I'm talking about, everyone was quite sweet, to be fair. They didn't abuse it, but we were misaligned in what the company should have done and what it needed versus where it actually went in terms of revenue. To give you an idea of salaries, most people got paid around the 60K mark. Most people who had more senior level jobs got paid around the 60K mark. People below the senior level jobs, depending on what they did, got paid around 35 to 40K. depending on the role, and the lowest someone ever got paid was, I think, 26K, and I was I think it was like 26K, maybe 24K, but I think it was at least mid 20s to 30s. But I was very impressed with the fact that we could pay people livable wages and good wages that can actually get you something. That's one thing that I'm very keen on. I was listening to My First Million podcast recently, and one of the big things that they talked about in a conversation was the fact that they just want to be able to pay people they really like and pay them really well. Again, I'm a big fan of that. The only thing that I change is pay the certain staff or like hire certain teams and focus on building that up, and then allow the revenue to trickle down, the profits to trickle down into other people and build up from there. But yeah, I think I've given quite an elaborate answer or discussion on the topic of hiring your first members of staff. There's probably a lot more that I'm leaving on the table, but I'll probably prepare a lot better in future for a conversation like this. But I appreciate the comment, and I'm glad you asked, because again, like, I've got so many things I can talk about, but I just don't know what to talk about sometimes. I'll quickly run through what I'm planning this week. This week, the new cohort for Product Design Bootcamp 36 begins. We are 2 spaces away from selling out. I believe we'll sell out on the day, so that's good. In terms of revenue generated, I believe this week we should make about 5 or 6, just shy of 6K because of that, and that's going to be helpful, and it will pay next month's immediate bills, of course, and whatnot. So I'm going to be happy with that. Also, what can I think about? I'm going to put more time into setting up some campaigns for marketing campaigns for the Product Design Academy, as I still need to sell the remaining spaces out for that. We've got like 21 spaces for the Academy. You need to sell that out. And from there, it should make it much easier for others who maybe may not be able to just go on the bootcamp experience just yet and get that. I'm not selling the course, but that's what we're selling out. What does that mean? I need to create some ad creatives, and I want to create some video assets for what we're building. And I also I want to build out a better funnel for how we do lead generation and how we nurture a lead. For instance, email campaigns. Oh shit, I'm reminding myself of work that I really don't want to do. Like, one of the things that I need to sort out is what email platform we use. Currently, we use 2 platforms. We migrated from ActiveCampaign because it was a bit of a pain to work with in Framer, but it turns out I actually like the fact that, well, I don't like the fact that it was a pain, but I liked aspects of how well the what is it, automation features were, and how they segmented audiences. That's super important, but we're running into problems with loops. I really prefer loops as experience, but they don't have the services or the things that we actually want. I guess I want a lot more than the software can give. At some point they probably will improve it, but yeah, I need to migrate back from loops over to ActiveCampaign. I also need to delete some direct debits. I need to start paying some bills, like this ticket. I need to pay this ticket. I also need to hopefully profit enough to pay our accountant some money, pay some money to HMRC, pay some money to just other people that we owe bills to, man. I got bills falling out my ass sometimes, man. It's really tiring. It's not stressful, it's just tiring. That's how I'd put it. What else are there to do? Yeah, this week's a big week for just service delivery and preparing for improving marketing functions and hopefully improving how consistent we can be. Also, I'm going to be doing some prep for Black Friday at some point, figuring out what we will do for Black Friday and how we'll set it up. If it looks good, campaign will start early in November, and we will look to, I say we, it's pretty much me, sorry about the burp. But yeah, if I do well enough on that front, I'm hoping for Black Friday to generate a good 5 figures, healthy 5 figures. To give you an idea of our most successful week, I'll talk about this in the future, but our most successful week was about 128 grand in a week. I don't expect it to do that, but I expect last year we prepared really well and we only did like a third of that at best. That being said, granted, like life was really difficult. There was a load of news that went out and it like messed up a lot of things. But this year, as I'm a solo team, if I prepare early enough and I do enough things, I believe we can make a good 20. You know what? To be ambitious, I want to say let's try and get 30 grand. Figure out how to make 30 grand and sell out enough cohorts and prepare the infrastructure for the teams, for the delivery team to be able to do that work. So yeah, let's do that. One of the big things I'm going to be doing is considering new markets and areas that have the budget to spend. Right now, we target predominantly UK, but the UK is in a position where there are only so many people here, and a lot of people don't have free capital, especially with cost of living crisis. So it's a bit shit. And we need to start diversifying how we go about teaching. Also, if I'm interested in moving, because interested in moving to the States, I want to also start working on my network for, instructors over there who we can get in touch with and have them run aspects of the boot camp. So that's a big thing that I'll be doing and working on. And yeah. So be it. This is my week. This is what I'm going to be focused on. It's 2:23 a.m. and I will be signing off, man. Have a great one. Peace. The weatherman comes. Oh, that mouse is so shit, man.